Hello, my friends. My name is Aaron Gerdes, and these are the three big stories for today. We'll also have one bonus story and one bonus cartoon to go with it. Okay, Danilov to be promoted to another direction. And I read that, I went, that's interesting. Today we have continued to reboot the management system of our state. There are personnel changes. I'm grateful to Danilov for his work as Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. He's being promoted to another direction. More on that later. So partly because we're not saying what it is, we're a little suspicious of it. But RT is very suspicious. Zelensky fire security chief, says RT. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky dismissed the head of the National Security and Defense Council. And then they go on and talk about how Danilov has been known for harsh statements and other things, and they make their case that he's been fired. I don't know that he's actually been fired. He might have been, but he might not have been. This might have been a legitimate reshuffle to put him somewhere else. Just don't know. Okay, second story. Ukraine ramps up spending on homemade weapons to help repel Russia. I thought this was really interesting because what they're doing is actually the right kind of steps, using business and competition within business to grow their capability and magnify it. The Ukrainian government budgeted nearly $1.4 billion in 2024 to buy and develop cheap weapons at home. 20 times more than before Russia's full-scale invasion. And in another major shift, a huge portion of weapons are now being bought from privately owned factories over an industry that had been dominated by state-owned companies. Now that's really important because once you have that competition, now you're going to see mostly less corruption and more effectiveness. I mean, that's just the way that the free market tends to work. And so, and they really need it. So that's good to see. At the same time, France is starting to requisition arms producers to speed up production to help Ukraine. Now, when we're thinking about Ukrainian arms development, the Ukrainians have been so incredibly brilliant in the way that they have done things. About a year ago, there was a defense official that said on a scale of 1 to 10 in creativity, the Ukrainians are 12. And I think that's right. Listen to this.
Grabbed 8,000 cell phones and they put them on a 6-foot pole and they put them all around the Ukraine and they put a microphone like this next to it so they could hear the one-way UAVs coming overhead. Cost $500. They were able to get headings, they were able to get velocity of these things.
Not only were they cheap to produce, but General Hecker says they could then share that information with some 200 mobile units using AAA. That's anti-aircraft artillery.
And they'd train a guy for 6 hours to sit in the AAA and look at an iPad that would show them where the UAVs were coming in. They had 84 of them that came in the other day. They tracked all 84. They shot down 80 with AAA.
So that's air defense artillery. That's shooting stuff up at it, not guided missile systems, and it's so much less expensive.
That's on the right side of the cost curve, as opposed to shooting them down with Patriots and SM-2 missiles.
Okay, did you catch that? I mean, just so clever. What they do, they took cell phones and put a microphone with it all around in multiple points, and it's just amazing. Okay, last story. I talked about this morning. This ship hit a bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, in Baltimore Harbor, and I want to show it to you, and then we'll talk about why I'm showing this to you in a video about Ukraine. So this is a container ship, a huge container ship. And look at that. That bridge is coming down. I'm pretty sure I've been over that bridge. Wow. Okay, so that's not supposed to happen, right? And then you had people like Marjorie Taylor Greene say there should be a serious investigation into the horrifying tragedy of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland. Is this an international attack or an accident? Like, she's just inserting herself into everything. But what's interesting about this is the Department of Homeland Security put this out. The Department of Homeland Security had released their initial findings regarding the incident this morning in Baltimore Harbor, Maryland, with a cargo ship which rammed into and caused the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. With reporting saying at the time of the crash, it was being piloted by a veteran harbor pilot, somebody who knew how to do this, and they had fully lost propulsion. There was like a loss of electric, which caused them to lose propulsion, and so they rammed into the thing. It wasn't a terrorist attack or anything like this. It was just a terrible accident. But I am telling you that because of this. I saw this morning. Today, we blame Ukraine for a huge cargo ship colliding with a bridge. This government is busy spending money to fund wars when our infrastructure is blank. Prayers to everyone affected by this tragedy. So I showed that and I said, you know, this kind of thing that Putin would say, and I was saying it tongue in cheek. Well, as I was sitting in a semi-public place, I saw somebody that I knew who I said, hey, do you see this thing about the bridge? And she said to me, now she didn't know that I do this all the time. Like we don't know each other that well, but she said to me, yeah, well, we're spending all this money on Ukraine instead of taking care of our infrastructure. Has nothing to do with the infrastructure. That's like the infrastructure was fine. You just don't ram a ship into it and the infrastructure would have been okay. But that she said that, it was mind-numbing. Like somebody put into my comments about it this morning, like, you're missing it. It's kind of a joke. It's kind of a play on what was being said. But somebody actually said that to me, like when I was pointing out what happened, and it was just amazing. So, yeah. Okay, last little bit. It's me, says ISIS, and Putin's over here. No, it's Ukraine. Yeah, that's the kind of nonsensical thing that we have. And again, even on something as simple as this bridge, like, there are people that just can't seem to think beyond their own worldview. So thank you for being willing to think. Like the last video that I did yesterday about what was happening in Moscow, I wasn't coming to a conclusion intentionally. I wasn't saying it was this, it was that. I was saying, well, here are the options. It's Ukraine, it's the U.S., it's the U.S. and Ukraine, it's ISIS, it's ISIS and the U.S. and whatever. It's a false flag. It's the false flag and it's ISIS, right? But I just want you to be able to think. Okay, that's all that I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. Tell me if I'm on the right track here, if I'm providing you the kinds of big stories that are going to be useful to you. I know that this was a little off the beaten trail talking about what's going on in Baltimore, but I can only imagine Redacted or somebody else, Judge Napolitano or somebody is going to be going off with this saying, see, this is terrorist attacks because of what's going on in Ukraine or because of the border or whatever it is. It's not a terrorist attack. Just put that aside. Put that out of your mind. There was an accident within the ship where they lost the ability to steer and a tragedy happened. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.